How about now? Now can you hear things?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No audio. All right.
Yes. Yes, they can hear
They
us
can hear us
now.
now. Okay,
Yes.
I don't have it. Okay, there we go. My fault. I was going to blame the software, but it was not the software.
User error.
It happens. It's been a long day.
It has.
All right, so we're back to talk about um what episode? Ahsoka episode 6. So we may have some people. I got a couple of things out there, links out there. We might have somebody drop by tonight. We'll see. Hello, Ro, Ubaldo. Seems like somebody else was in here early. Amanda is around. So thank y'all for hanging out, jumping in, and I real quick want to say thank you if you're watching again. If you watched us for the first time last night, I very much appreciate it. We had
Yeah.
uh, a lot of new interaction on the episode last night,
That's awesome. While I was
and
sleeping.
while you were sleeping, we had a big uptick in interaction and some new subscribers. So if you're back for this episode, thank you for that. Thank you for following us. And so I've been taking notes on this, but life's been wild and crazy, and we're going to talk with no notes tonight. So
That's fine.
so if there's something that you want us to talk about, if you're in the chat and there's something that we're not talking about, be sure to throw it out there in the chat and we will get to it.
Yes.
But for starters, we're just going to kind of ease in here. The opening scene, man, what a tease!
So, um, we're sitting here watching it with the kids, and you know, not. Do you want to hear the story? Right? Not right now. And we all went ah, and then they came back. Okay, I decided I wanted to hear the story, and then it cuts away, and one of my kids goes, "All right, when are we raiding Dave Filoni's house with pitchforks and torches to hear that story?"
Right? Like, yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to hear that story? And of course, I
Yes.
love, starting it off with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far
Yeah.
away. I mean, because that was always our uh,
Right. That's the
fairy tale beginning.
right.
So that was always the fairy tale beginning to from the beginning with A New
Right.
Hope, and
Hmm.
so it was really cool to see that used in universe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like hearing the Imperial March in universe in
Hmm.
Solo,
It was like,
or I guess in Rebels.
was the Rebels the first time they used it?
Yeah, I think we heard it live action in Solo
Yeah,
as
we did.
well,
Definitely heard it
but
in
I think
solo.
they used it in Rebels at some point too, where we actually hear a in universe version of the Imperial March,
Yeah.
which was fun.
But like in a, you know, with major chords under it instead of minor chords, so it was very, bombastic,
Yeah.
which is great.
Uh, yeah, so I yelled at the TV. I
Yeah.
was
Feelings were hurt.
I wanted to see it.
Yes,
Of
was
course,
sad.
Filoni's no fool. He knows that's what we want.
Yeah.
So it's a nice tease, and it kind of makes me wonder if maybe we're going to get some of those stories, or I think we might through these last two episodes kind of get an origin uh,
Hmm.
story for how at least this era of the universe took shape.
Yeah.
Something's going on this planet. This planet is important, possibly beyond the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
We know the Jedi have been there. It's a place. The Purgle are a force sensitive creature. We know that now that it's where they go, literally at the end of their life cycle, to die.
Right. Which is crazy. Um, and a little bit. It's a little tragic. Like, this is the inspiration for intergalactic travel, and it's like because they're going there to die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, Amanda, I think as much as anything, because you can turn that off if you want to.
Yeah.
As much as anything, I think that I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, we're in a new galaxy now and we're never going back to the other one. Like that our characters are now in this galaxy and the story is going to go forward in this new galaxy. And now we don't have to worry about the sequel trilogy anymore. And like, yeah, I'm not a fan of the sequel trilogy either, but that's really just
I mean, there are things that
no,
I'm
but
not a fan.
seriously, well, that's a sequel hater's wet dream. Like, that's all that is. Like, sorry if that was crass, but it's it's true. Like they have been looking for a way to circumvent.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter every series. Oh, they're gonna retcon the sequel trilogy.
yeah,
That's every series that's come out. They're gonna
right,
retcon the sequel trilogy,
right.
and I don't think that's what's happening. I mean, I think strong indication is we're going back to our primary galaxy for the movie.
No, they're laying too much groundwork that intersects with the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, I really think that what's going to happen is I think that this is going to lay some groundwork that is going to kind of elevate some of the concepts that maybe they didn't flesh out very well in the sequels.
Yeah, no, I mean that's obviously Filoni's a world builder as much as
Mm-hmm.
anything. The people that made the sequels are not they're not classic world builders.
Yeah.
They just they made serialized sort of sci-fi. Um, they didn't really. I don't know. I mean, they didn't delve, even though they tried to do like mystical, fantastical elements. They didn't really develop them well. There was a lot of stuff there. But before we move away from this, totally where I was going, Amanda. Yes, I think books are probably we've opened up a whole new sort of like Timothy Zahn did, because Timothy Zahn wanted to tell Thrawn stories
Mm-hmm.
because that's his character. He wanted to tell stories. And basically, once Thrawn became part of the TV, part of the galaxy, he lost any ability to tell stories there. We heard him talk about this at Dragon Con a few years
Mm-hmm.
ago, where he's basically like, well, now that they have started to use the character on television,
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell stories until they say, okay, we're done with him for a
Right.
while. Can you tell a story in this era,
Right.
or about this?
Mm-hmm.
So he did the smart thing and said, well, what if I did a Thrawn prequel? Would y'all let me do that? Would y'all let me go over here and explore the Chisholm world and all that? He found a place to tell new stories that didn't cause any friction with television or movies. That was smart. I think this does that
Absolutely.
as well. I think this opens up a new part of the galaxy for books, for to introduce everything new, like all new
History of the
races,
Galaxy Part One. Like,
all new histories, all new, new religions, new
mhm.
perspectives on the force. Yeah, we did open that box now.
I mean, can you imagine how
Although I'm
many?
not sure that we're not going to destroy Paradia before this is over with.
That's true. Can you imagine though how many episodes of the of University of Coruscant we can get out of out of a whole new era of the beginning of time?
Hmm.
Yes.
So now it's possible that we have this movie coming up. The guy that wrote the I'm gonna Mangold that did the new
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones. As long as they don't cancel that, because there is word
Right.
right now that they've canceled one of there's rumors right now that they've canceled Taika Waititi's film. Um, so we do have a kind of, like Amanda saying here, a dawn. It's kind of a Dawn of the Jedi. Maybe I'm kind of getting the impression that it's almost like pre-Jedi. It's more the origins of the Force.
Yeah.
I
Which is
don't know that we're
awesome.
not exploring that planet right now.
Yeah, I wondered if maybe he's talking about like there's something here. And I wonder if maybe we're going to interact with some kind of like force entities, like
Hmm.
the father and the son and the daughter, or
Or something
maybe
like the
those
Bendu
the
or
Bindu or the weird people with the masks and all the faces that Yoda interacts with,
the
right?
Wills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Wills.
Well, I guess I don't know that they are officially called those the Wills. Um, maybe they did. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, maybe Zepho.
The Zepho, yeah.
Hmm.
So we could be in a galaxy where a lot of these force sensitive races
Yeah.
that came to our known galaxy and then eventually left again
Mhm.
came from. That,
Right.
that may be where we're at.
Well, I mean, this is where the Night Sisters come from. So we know that the Night Sisters are. I mean, obviously they've got the Force thing going on.
Mhm.
Darth Maul was. I mean, there's a clear delineation between the males and the females.
Yeah, they're different. They're not the same race.
But
Because like Mother Taliesin is listed as a human.
Mother Taliesin is also Darth Maul's mother.
Yeah, but the males are called Zabrak, and the females they never clarified all that.
But I mean the
No,
ones
the
that we've
males are
seen,
this and the females are this, but
right.
and it's odd. I mean, it's not a
Mhm.
it's not the way genetics typically work.
Typically, yeah. But it's an interesting because pretty much everyone we've seen from this people group are force sensitive.
Yes. Well,
Um,
the females, the males, we don't necessarily get that
I
indication.
mean, the only ones we really have seen it to any extent are
Sauvage
Maul
and
and
Sauvage.
Cross.
Yeah.
But he's training, right? Isn't he doing force training with Maul?
Who?
Savage and
Savage Press, yeah, he's force sensitive,
so
but
I
they're
mean,
brothers. So
right. But it's just an interesting it's a really interesting kind of so like obviously this is where the Night Sisters come from. Who else comes from this place, right?
yeah, or
We've
this
got
galaxy. I
this
mean,
galaxy, yeah. Or even this
galaxy
planet.
galaxies are big places, and we've met way more people on like different groups on this planet than I expected.
Yeah.
Although we don't know, we kind of have the group, the raiders or whatever we want to call them at this point.
Mhm,
We don't really know who they are. They might be Zabrak. They might be the same as,
mhm.
this may just be the races that moved to Dathomir.
Oh yeah, that they could just be because we can't see their faces, so they could have horns and stuff
Right.
under there.
I mean, they're wearing red. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
We don't know what they are yet. We got several really interesting things. The howlers look incredible. Ro and I talked a lot about that last night.
Yeah, they really did. Especially compared to like I mean I loved all the Anakin stuff, but the Howlers were way more, like rendered in a much more convincing way than
Well, I still
even
think that Anakin is sort of in a, that's a dream state sort of thing. I'm not
that's
sure they
true.
didn't intentionally
Yeah,
um,
that's true.
kind of leave that a little. Although, de-aging and creating something from scratch are pretty different processes.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm just saying it's possible. Like we don't know. Like they've never really clarified. I mean, like the Night Sisters are humans, but the
Mhm.
males of the planet are the Zabrak. We've never seen females of that race in canon.
Hmm.
So we've never gotten a clear indication of what the relationship between those two groups are.
How that works.
Yeah. So I'm not.
I mean, it could be like what they say like tabby cats are almost always female just like for a genetic reason. Right. So it could be something like that typically males manifest these characteristics and females
Yeah, maybe
manifest
they're
these
the same, but
characteristics.
the males manifest different characteristics. Maybe that's all it is. But I'm just saying, like, we don't know what the raiders look like. They may just be humans. But we
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah.
We got the little turtle guys, and I don't remember what if they told us what those are called. Did we see is it the Nito language or the something? I don't remember. I saw it in the captions,
Mhm.
but I don't know if that was the language that
Mhm.
everybody on that planet speaks
Yeah.
or what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, red is always identified with dark side, which flows with the Night Sisters and all that.
Mhm.
So they've always been shown as dark side force users. There was some symbolism in this where we see, we've always seen the triangle in relation to the Sith, or at least for a while now, we've seen a triangle used as the symbol for the Sith.
Okay.
And I saw someone, it was probably Ryan Airy on Screen Crush. I've watched a lot of videos today, but pointing out that they're using triangles in the symbolism for the Night Sisters, but inverted.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
same but different.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that that's kind of the theme here, right? It's the same but different.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I think we've got a lot of that sort of thing kind of going on.
right.
The stormtroopers are the same but different. The Night Sisters are the same but different.
Yeah,
In fact, did they not call themselves Night Sisters here? They're the Great Mother, but we haven't heard what the rest of the women are called.
yeah. I'm gonna assume until they tell us different. I'm assuming because they didn't tell us different that they're Night Sisters.
Yeah.
And because the mother, Great Mother, or whatever, was the same title used to denote the leader of on Dathomir, Mother
Was it?
Taliesin.
Okay, yeah.
So, um, so I'm assuming that's the same. Especially by the way, because when Morgan Elsbeth first shows up, I'm like, these are like witches from the home planet.
Mhm.
Are they gonna like even recognize Morgan Elsbeth as being
Right.
on the same level as them?
Right.
Or is she going to be somehow inferior
Mhm.
because she's not, so, but they turn out, they embrace her as, being,
A long lost sister.
yeah. So I'm
So
assuming the structure remains the same.
it also begs the question, why are they so eager to get away? What is everybody trying to like? What's so much better over there that they're
I just don't think there's a lot of life left on this planet.
but like you said, galaxies are big places.
That's true.
Um,
But we know they've gone to this other galaxy before.
yeah.
So we don't really know what the relationship between the
Yeah.
two galaxies is. But hi, Megan. Thanks for dropping in. Also, since some of y'all have dropped in since I said this at the beginning of the show, we are flying without notes tonight. So if we skip over something that you wanted us to cover, drop it in the chat. Or if we're missing something we should cover, drop it in the chat so that I remember to cover it. I did not have time to make notes today,
Yeah. It was a day. Our
but
desert say.
yeah, yeah, they're dropping one by one. It's like if everybody gets sick, if they all get sick at once, then you get a couple of days and everybody's over it. But when one gets sick and that one gets better and then another one gets sick, you really stretch these things out.
You do. You
So,
really, really
and
do.
you up the chance of more people getting it the longer you stretch it out.
Although, like, the germiest of the children is now recovered.
True.
That smallest one, y'all, he's a little science experiment just walking around. Germs everywhere.
Yeah.
No regard. No regard for anyone else's well being or anything.
That's true. All right. So, let's just kind of talk about aesthetics, the way things looked.
Oh yeah.
I love the translation of Thrawn's Star Destroyer from animation to live action. It has the Chimera image on the bottom of it that we saw in Rebels. I wasn't actually sure they would do that. If they would put that on it or not. You can see the damage on the side where it was damaged in the last battle. They translated it really, really well to live action, and of course, it. I know some people don't like Star Destroyers in atmosphere because it's one of those things. Like, if we want to be real technical, this is one of the reasons that Star Wars is not science fiction. We want to be real technical about it. Bringing something that large into the atmosphere is not going to work out real well. But you know, it's fantasy. It's like science fiction, but in a fantasy world. So as long as the
Right.
science stays consistent in that world, then we're good. You start getting wishy washy with it in world, and then it gets. But
But
so
man, it looked good.
well, I love the. We've been working. We talked about this way back in the first episode. The repetition of the number three, which there are lots of reasons, both artistically, philosophically, other reasons to repeat in threes. Like it's, but we see that repeated a lot in religions.
Hmm.
In the Christian religion, we see it, and we see it in a number of other religions, and then we even see it. It's how the fates are denoted in Greek mythology, and of course, that's repeated. Like basically everything that's ever been made about witches since
Hamlet,
since
not
the Greeks,
I mean,
Macbeth.
Macbeth. Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's the ones in Macbeth are based exactly on the fates. I mean, they are the
right.
fates from Greek
Yeah,
mythology.
yeah, absolutely. But that's, I think, whenever that became like a standard, you don't really see that
Yeah, I
a whole
think
lot in like Western, I mean, in Christian literature until Macbeth, really. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, I think that's when it was embraced as a trope.
Hmm.
Is Macbeth? I
Add
think
that to the list of tropes that Shakespeare
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like
created.
that
Just the trope maker.
right. I mean, seriously. Like
Yeah.
certain types of storytelling. It's kind of like it's what Tolkien did for fantasy storytelling. All the tropes come from Tolkien.
Right.
Like, and then we're seeing those tropes here. I'm loving it. I saw somebody had compiled a bunch of shots. Of course, you got Ahsoka in the white, and then you
Hmm.
see these temples on this planet we're going to, and they look like a dark version of Minas Tirith. I mean, like all the parallels, and of course, this is. I think Filoni's pulling from. I think he's pulling from Wheel of Time here.
Oh yeah. So like when he's like it goes round and round and I just want to stop it. I was like, he wants to break the wheel. I
Yeah,
mean, it was like um I have been listening to Wheel of Time again
and
and
of course, the whole Wheel of Time thing goes back to Norse mythology, which Filoni also loves.
Eastern mythology really too. A lot of Hindu
Yeah,
mythology is
mhm.
very
Right. But I'm just
cyclical.
saying Norse. We see him draw from Norse a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, so the whole idea of the ring cycle that
Hmm.
this creation, life, destruction, and repeat, and
Hmm.
we see that in a lot of different religions, and
It might be interesting, though completely off topic. It
mhm.
really might be interesting to see how your kind of ancient, like Indo European religions are related that way. Because, like, you definitely see that in Hinduism, but you're right. It's also a really common, really prevalent trope in, Norse and that, Northern European mythology.
Yeah,
And that's,
Germanic.
yeah, that's a kind of, you wouldn't typically be like, ooh, same thing.
Yeah.
Um, I might have to look into that a little bit. Now I'm
Yes,
curious.
yeah, it's like I'm it's one of those things I can talk on it at length on the things I'm familiar with.
Right.
Christian, Greek, Norse. I can talk at length with those, but like I know he's pulling from Eastern stuff as well. I just
Hmm.
don't know
Yeah.
those things. So so for my sake, I can only pull. So yeah, I would love to talk to somebody that's more familiar with the
Hmm.
Eastern elements because he's drawing from both,
From lots
but
of
there are
different,
lots
yeah.
of similarities between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah, but I mean that's clearly what Balin's after. He's looking to break the wheel. He's looking to break the cycle. He
yeah,
wants if is he trying to just destroy the force? Is he trying to destroy everything? Is he trying to make everything more force endowed?
well,
Like
is
what?
he trying to start over and control it from the
Mhm.
start? So basically, is it I talked about this some last night as well. We have Kreia or Darth Treya from
Mhm.
Knights of the Old Republic 2, who kind of begins to look at the Force as this thing that enslaves its users. It's
Yeah.
it's using humans to do its bidding
Mhm.
for good and evil,
Right.
and that it has made slaves of the Force sensitive, and she wants to extinguish it
Right.
because the only way to stop the punishment, the torture, the whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, that the Force is inflicting on the people of the galaxy is to wipe it out, to extinguish it altogether.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he's after, or if he somehow thinks that he can, if he can go back to the source, that he can control it and
Mhm.
stop the cycle by controlling it. So he's Dr. Horrible, chaos that he runs.
Right. I mean, he definitely is looking for power, but is it power for its own sake or power to break the cycle? Like, does he just, and then that, I think that's the question. He doesn't necessarily seem like he's wanting to be the king of the universe.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he's necessarily looking to run things as
Right.
much as he's looking to break the cycle.
Right.
And
Yeah. See, that's what I don't understand. And I think there's still something there. And um, I'm really, really interested in seeing where that goes. Because, I mean, I might be totally off with the Kreia comparison, but it was the first thing, like like even Iana thought of it immediately. And I kind of went there as well. That that was my first impression, is that yes, he wants to extinguish the force because the force is responsible for the cycle.
You
That
know,
good, bad, it's all the force. It's all the same.
so do we think if this is what he's going for, that we actually reference that storyline? We maybe reference Darth Treya?
Well, see, that's what now.
Is this one of the stories that
Well,
that
see, yeah, because
Yu Yang is
that's like
telling?
that's history of the galaxy. Part one is would it be those stories, the Knights of the Old Republic era stories.
It's in the other room.
It's in the other room. I'm not going to worry about it. It is loud though.
Who's calling you this time?
I
One of your
don't know.
grandmothers.
Probably. Yeah, somebody. But
Somebody's realized that they want something. They want you to run an errand tomorrow.
let's talk. So the Star Destroyer looks fantastic, menacing. I love the little ship, the little shuttle that they take down from the ring when they first come in. Actually looks almost identical to the shuttles from David Lynch's Dune.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
So I'm pretty sure that was a nod to David Lynch's Dune. There's so much here.
Speaking of, when that ring,
well, it did the same thing when it went into hyperspace.
Yes,
yeah,
it did, but it was like,
yeah. No,
oh
it looked
God,
wild. It looked
it's
very cool.
So cool, so cool.
Yeah, no, I thought that looked amazing. So yeah,
like that was one of the, that may have been the moment visually in this episode that was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Kind of like the Darth Vader Anakin shot last week, where it was kind of flashy and changing.
Yeah, the whale graveyard is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if more, what the significance. We haven't learned what the significance of that is yet. And it may be simple, like, there are animals that we know. There's surprisingly little we know about a lot of animals, but
like salmon go back.
Well, salmon go back to where they were spawned and breed and die. Elephants, actually, I believe, at least some groups of elephants will go back to a certain place to die.
I mean, and so there's an elephant graveyard in Lion King, so that tracks.
Well, we think the same thing might have been cool, like when they find places where there's mammoth bones.
Oh, true.
We find lots of mammoth bones, but we don't find them everywhere. We find them in like large groups.
Interesting.
Like they went to that place to die. Either that or they were all wiped out by something at once, or both. I don't know, but
yeah.
But animals do. This is something animals do.
Right.
We know of at least a few different kinds of animals that do that. So that's a really interesting element.
I think there's also an entry because, like, they're clearly like some kind of force connection there.
The whale, why they come back to that planet?
Yeah, and so like, there's clearly something going on. Is it possible that there's something there that's like leeching their life force, or like, do they go there to die, or do they go there and are killed?
No, I think they go there to die. Okay. I think there's something significant about this place within the Force. I mean, we've seen really important places within the Force previously, but we don't know now. So the other option is for what Balin's looking for is an entrance to the world between worlds.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen that. I've seen that. It's certainly a plausible explanation. I don't think. I think we're going something bigger. Um,
Ooh, actually, I like this. Maybe it's their birthplace as a
so
species.
yeah, I think that's actually very likely.
So maybe there's like some kind of ancestor to the space whales, like in the bowels of the earth, and it's
Yeah, I
gonna
mean
come out at the end of time and eat the planet like some kind of Greek, not Greek, some
Norse.
kind of Norse serpent.
Yeah, and it could be something like that. As much as Dave likes wolves, we've already got the basically the sons of Fenrir
Right.
represented in Shin and Balin. We could
Mhm.
see basically a version of Fenrir himself.
Yeah.
Which if you're not versed in Norse mythology, is basically the you know the creature that will orchestrate Ragnarok.
Right.
Um, so and then Balin, of course, the Shin, and we talked about this before. Shin and Balin are the Shin, or so her last she's Shin, Hati, and Balin Skull. So Hati and Skull are the the sons of Fenrir,
Okay. Yeah.
who will devour the sun and moon and snuff out all light at the
Yeah.
end of all things.
Oh, that's great. You gotta love Star Trek.
Yeah,
Star Trek references.
but yeah, so there's lots of cool stuff. But so I'm loving, like, because we've talked about the fates,
Hmm.
and I never thought they would be this. They're being super literal with it,
Yeah.
like the spinning of
The
the
three creepy
threads.
old women and the yeah.
Well, the three women. So I mean, it's the three represent the three stages of womanhood:
Yeah.
the mother, the
Maiden,
maiden,
mother,
and the
crone.
crone. Um, and so, but I mean, like, talking about the thread, the loose threads, and all this, man, they're being really really literal with the idea of the fates.
Hmm.
So I'm loving that. They looked fantastic, because that's something I hadn't seen a lot of people talk about. This is the first time seeing Night Sisters in live action,
Yeah.
and I know a lot other than Morgan Elsbeth. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, so we've seen Morgan Elsbeth, but this is the first time seeing, because everybody was like, "Oh, when did?" Uh, I saw a lot of complaining. When did Night Sisters suddenly become human? Well, they were always human. I hate to tell you this,
Yeah.
but the ones that we see are tattooed.
Mm.
Like, even like Maul, everybody's like, oh, talks about the Zabrak looking a certain way, but no, they're tattooed. They're either orange skinned or red skinned, but the
Right.
the black markings are tattoos. Same with
Yeah.
the Night Sisters, and they translated it extremely well to live action.
Or maybe even like their green force magic turned their skin green. It's creepy and gross. It's my new
Their
theory.
skin's not green though; it's white,
Turns their skin greeny white. It's
greeny
kind
white.
of greeny.
um, yeah. So let's talk about Enoch.
Hmm.
So this is Thrawn's new right hand man.
I thought for a second it was going to be Ezra.
Yeah, I thought there was a possibility, except I knew that they had cast someone as this character.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they would have gone that far with casting.
Well, no, clearly, if that were Ezra, he was going to eventually take off his mask.
Yeah. So Enoch, like, so I know we talked about it a little bit before. Where are you on it?
Oh, I think it's just a Bible name. Enoch. Yeah.
I would love for it to
Ooh.
be Eli Vanto, but
Ooh.
as far as we know, when Thrawn, based on the books, when Thrawn was taken away to this galaxy, Eli Vanto was with the Chiss Ascendancy. He could be back. He could have been back, but we didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that this is not Eli Vanto, because this is what Thrawn was doing, was basically recruiting people to go help with the battle against the Grisk. So I think we're probably going to
Right.
keep those two things separate. I would love it,
Oh yeah.
honestly, though, if it was Eli Vanto, but I don't know why hide the name.
Hmm.
Um,
Ooh. Ooh. And then, like, spoiler alert, it's also Eli from Stargate. It's David Blue under that in that uniform.
oh, so we didn't mention that the head mother, the whatever they called her, was
Great
Claudia.
Mother.
The Great Mother is Claudia Black,
Hmm.
which is, I mean, that's sci-fi royalty.
Oh yeah.
Like,
sure.
so I was loving that because I didn't catch it at all.
No, I mean she looks, the makeup and everything was just so incredibly different.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. Amanda's kind of leading into it here.
Hmm.
An interesting name for him because that the man that walked with God. So getting very much into the moving beyond just the Bible and into apocryphal stuff. So the Catholic view on Enoch. I mean, it's the biblical view, but
And
the Catholic,
Orthodox.
well, the
Well,
Catholic and the Orthodox versions go further. So we believe, in just the Bible itself, Enoch lives like 350 some odd years on Earth, which is about half the length of the average person that we have listed during the same era. He's one of the last men
he
that
walks with God.
well, he's one of the last men in the lineage that walks with God. Like we're leading into a time where people are not following God. And so he's one of the last, but then he's just apparently just
And
taken
then he
away.
was no more
Yeah.
because God took him.
Yeah, and it basically says because God took him. So then
Yeah,
when you
like
lead into when you lead more in from there into I guess it's the book of Enoch. There's a couple
mhm,
of books of
yeah.
Enoch. So um not only is he's so loyal, so committed that he's taken from Earth alive to basically rule over to lead the archangels
Okay.
and basically become God's right hand.
Hmm. Yeah, I've never read the Book of Enoch actually.
I actually read some of it for the first time today because of this. But like,
I've
so
got it over here somewhere.
where I'm going is where I'm thinking this is going. I don't, there's a couple things you could be doing, but I think what we're mostly leaning into is we're seeing a fanatical following for Thrawn. Thrawn has always inspired somewhat of a fanatical following,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
are these followers now? I mean, are they viewing him as a incarnate God?
I mean, the way they're thrown. I was like, they're not going back to reestablish anything. Like they're not interested in Operation Cinder.
No, no, he's totally going to be
Yes.
separate from Cinder, and I'm not sure how he's going to mesh with the Imperial Remnant when he comes back.
Hmm. No, I don't think well. Um, no, absolutely. I think you're right. I think that this is a
Yeah,
new.
this is not going to be, and I mean, it could be different. I mean, we'll see. Thrawn's not giving away his whole plan, but his followers are fanatical.
That voice, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Jesus Pete.
skeptical. Like, I never thought that he was the best live action casting for the role, but honestly, it's worth it for the voice.
And that's the thing. Was how I felt. It was like I feel like he isn't quite gaunt enough.
Yeah,
Like he doesn't quite have the look that I would
no,
envision Thrawn
it's not the
having.
jawline I envision when I think of Thrawn, but it's fine. I mean, like, so we've got a much older Thrawn character at this point.
Hmm.
Although we don't know how long just live.
Yeah, but man, it's like whenever he started talking, it's like, oh, that's right. That's why they went this route because it's such a distinct voice.
Yeah, no, I mean Thrawn's definitely gone. I mean Thrawn's going to be vanquished in the movie, like in Filoni's movie. I envision that movie probably occurring.
Honestly, though,
We're in the year 9 as far as we know, and we're not going to go beyond like the year 10 or 11 before Thrawn is vanquished.
well, and I think that also that could, if he comes back with an armada, that could be a good explanation for where all of those ships in the you know, outer space, outer reach, whatever it was, wherever
Yeah,
we end up in episode 9.
right.
So,
Um,
and this is good too. Vanquish doesn't necessarily mean killed. I think that's he could just retreat. That's also
he could just go back to Chiss space. That would be that's almost preferable. Um,
yeah. Leave him around. Still possibly show up and be menacing later.
yeah. Or we see him. I mean, we can go back to the unknown regions and see him as the protagonist
Yeah.
because I mean, that's what the books are setting up.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, we can see a lot of different things with Thrawn, but I thought it looked okay. I thought he looked fine.
Mhm.
Like, I love, man, the attention to detail. Did you notice like the sewn parts? Because it's it's an Imperial uniform. Like it should be crisp,
Mhm.
but I mean it's got parts that are like patched back together,
Mhm.
and it's been through some stuff. Like
Mhm.
they haven't had access to ability to repair this stuff.
Right.
So real quick, let's talk about the stormtroopers. Or now these are night troopers.
Yeah.
Are they alive? Are they something resurrected by the Night Sisters? We've also seen the Night Sisters basically um, empower and possess living beings. So what do you think? I mean, we see the armor. They did a lot of cool stuff with the armor, where the armor's all torn because obviously the armor is not um, going to be renewed. Like you're not getting
Right.
new armor. Like
Right.
you got a finite supply here on the ship.
Mhm.
So they did a lot of stuff very similar. I'm going to totally blank on the Japanese art style where they repair things, but
With gold.
but you instead of hiding the imperfection, you basically highlight the imperfection.
Mhm.
So they did done with gold on all these
Mhm.
uniforms.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Um.
Well, see, I I think that some of them are alive, maybe not all of them. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure also why we're calling them night troopers. Is it possible that they're not even original troopers? Is it possible that they've been replaced with residents of this planet?
Mm. And there could be anything under those helmets.
Yeah, I mean, so he doesn't want to send a lot of troops out to hunt Ezra
Yeah.
because he's already lost so many, and I'm
Right.
just going to assume for now that there's a reason they're not sending troops out looking for Ezra.
Yeah.
I'm
Um.
assuming that troops that go out looking for Ezra aren't coming back.
I mean, it would and he sends people that he considers to be expendable. He sends the
Mhm.
mercenaries out.
Yeah.
And this is a good.
Yeah, I think that it's either that or that they're not the original stormtroopers. They're not the original wearers of that armor, that they're new
Yeah.
recruits from this planet.
But even either way, it seems at least possible. Well, because specifically because he said, "I'm going to need your dark magic again." It makes me think that um there's something like they're not just his soldiers. There's something going on that the Night Sisters are involved in,
Yeah,
and
otherwise we're not calling them night troopers.
yeah, exactly. Um, so I think they're likely Night Sister creations. Yeah, I think so. Some kind of like I don't know exactly what. I don't know if they're reanimating something or
Well,
if
we
they're.
also see them moving something in like person-shaped pods.
I mean, my initial assumption was cryopods.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could be enhanced like Savage was.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what
Such
I'm
a crappy name. Man,
Savage Opress.
Savage
I mean,
Opress.
that's like the most
So
George
on the nose.
Lucasian name
It's
of all time.
just so on the
Well, that's
nose.
the way George Lucas named
I
things.
know. It's just bad. Anyway, that's not the conversation here.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the stormtroopers look excellent. Man, the chanting, like it's cultish.
Mhm.
So I'm really curious to see where this is going, how this is going to play out.
Mhm.
Um, so far with the reanimated with Merrick,
Mhm.
we had a very kind of almost mechanical voice. We not don't really get that from the chanting. It sounds like people.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know what they are, but I don't think
They're
they're
not
just
natural.
ordinary troopers.
It's
Yeah.
not a natural phenomenon.
Enoch's helmet. Yes, the helmet.
Ooh.
So very, very Roman. I've seen some people posting. I think actually Amanda may have posted in the chat earlier that it looked like a Roman cavalry helmet.
Mhm.
And also very reminiscent of a lot of gladiatorial masks. Um, it's just very Roman.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um there's also, is it Sutton Hoo, where there's the where they've got where they dug up all that stuff um in England, I think. And it's very Viking, looking. So I think it's technically Pictish or Anglo-Saxon or British or something, some early pre-Norman English.
Hey, so here's one of the new subscribers that we picked up last night. I very much appreciate the subscription and checking out the show.
Yeah, nice to meet you, David. Yeah, it was. I mean, there just wasn't anything like it. I had just finally gotten to the point where I was like, okay, if we spend any longer with the turtle people, I'm going to start feeling about them like I felt about the Harfoots and Rings of Power. Like, okay, it's fine. Let's move on.
Right.
And it was like on the tip of my tongue to be like, okay, I'm tired of it now. And then we heard, good to see. And I was like, okay, see, now this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Leave you,
Yeah. So
make something happen.
So what do you think about the Night Sisters' reaction to Sabine when they first arrive on planet?
So the thing that I thought was really interesting is she clearly has a different energy than Balin. Because like there's been a little bit of like who's on what side, who, like what are we doing, where are we going, where do we come, but they immediately she gets off of the shuttle and they say Jedi. And I think that may prove to be significant for her because I don't think she feels like a Jedi.
No.
And
no, but she's clearly giving off an energy.
She's giving off Jedi energy. And I think that that's really important because I think that it's significant because that's how they immediately see her. That's how she feels to them.
Yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of stuff there. I mean, like, so because they're not happy either when they find out that a few minutes later that Balin was a Jedi.
So we got some theories in the chat here. Let's see what we got. So we have so you think that they were actually getting that vibe off of Balin?
Yeah, but they weren't getting it anymore after they get rid of Sabine.
Right. So I kind of wondered what their kind of deal was with Balin because they're unimpressed when they realize he used to be a Jedi, but it's clearly not that's not kind of what they're projecting. It could be Ahsoka's energy. I mean, yeah, I think they have some kind of connection, but I think she also has.
And she's been training as a Jedi.
Yeah, she clearly has her own,
and she has some connection to the Force.
Well, but the thing is, but she's made the selfish decision that could potentially be a bad. It could potentially be the start down a bad path, but I think that this is the confirmation that this was not a dark side move for her, because that's not what they read on her. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Davin says, on the subject of the Night Sisters, everything we learned about them was amazing. I was also very surprised to see them say that Sabine had Jedi energy. Yeah, I'd like to know more about that because they're definitely getting a read from her. I specifically think from last night that Shin is, I think Shin thinks that her master is losing it a little bit.
Yeah, she's a little scary.
Like, yeah, but see, I thought Balin might be the one that had the face turn, and now I'm starting to think that I was had it backwards. like she's very interested in a lot of this stuff. She's interested in who Ezra is.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing worth mentioning where um, Balin calls Ezra a basically a breed of Boken Jedi, which is a
Mm-hmm.
reference to wooden martial arts training swords. Basically, just saying like he's a cheap imitation of the real thing,
Yeah.
which I think he's going to find out different. Um,
Yeah.
well, I mean Ezra's had nothing to do for a while now,
Literally nothing to do but meditate and
for like
train.
almost 11 years,
Yeah. Ironically, with a stick because his lightsabers all
unless
went
he
to the other
built unless he
galaxy.
built a new lightsaber.
That's true.
I'm gonna assume that he's built a new lightsaber, and I'm anxious to see it because Ezra's lightsabers have always been interesting. Let's see. What did y'all think of Lars Mickelson's live action debut as Grand Admiral Thrawn? Also, totally agree about your comments on Shin. I'm starting to think she'll be the one to turn. Yeah, I'm getting like the vibe from her change. There's something she's not sure about something her master's after.
Mhm.
So we're going to see where that goes. As far as Lars Mickelson, I mean, again, having read the original book back in '91 when it came out, seen the art that came out then, he doesn't look like the Thrawn that we've been envisioning for 30 years. However,
But he feels like him.
I think the voice is just absolute. I mean, like that voice, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's not in menacing or intimidating," or
Ooh.
I don't. And
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, confidence. Um, the voice is
Scary.
fantastic, and that's kind of what I said at the
Yeah.
beginning. Like um, I'll take the look for the voice.
And the body language, like she's absolutely right. I mean, even honestly, like his build, like he's not just near. Like I always envisioned Thrawn as a much like skinnier, like he's just not built like I would have envisioned Thrawn, but he just exudes the energy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know what?
Well, that voice. I mean, the voice. Like, I mean, I can't picture any other voice for Thrawn anymore. Like
Yeah.
that's a character that I've been following for 30 years, and now that's the voice I associate with the character. So I'm glad they made that decision.
Yeah, I think it was a good.
Yeah, surprisingly, I've seen quite a few people say that he wasn't intimidating, but
No, he's creepy as
I
all
mean,
get
this is
out.
a guy that is commanding the allegiance, a fanatical allegiance of his soldiers, commanding the allegiance of the Night Sisters. Apparently,
Yeah,
he's going to be a formidable opponent.
yeah.
Um, let's see. So, what else? What else do we need to cover? Like I said in the chat, I'm flying without notes tonight. So if there's something I hadn't covered, throw it out there.
There's something else.
Sabine, what about Sabine's fight with the Raiders?
I mean, she's
She fights
definitely.
like a Mandalorian.
Yeah, she really does, which is great.
Yeah, no, that's a great attention to detail that even when the lightsaber comes out, she fights like a Mandalorian.
It's like we're sitting watching it. It's like, all right,
It's
she pulls out
raw.
the blaster. She's got this, and it's like, and finally we pull out the lightsaber. It's like never her. She's always a Mandalorian first. That's where that's what she is. She's a Mandalorian first, and she'll be a Jedi after.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a great thing. Like, I mean, I'm a huge Rebels fan, but like I said, when I was 11 years old, I read the first Thrawn books. So I'm super pumped to seeing Thrawn come to life. I mean, after over, 32 years, seeing that character come to life is pretty special.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like for people younger than me, and I mean, I mean, Sabine and Ezra, fantastic. But I know for my kids, like seeing Sabine and Ezra come to life is pretty special.
Yeah.
Because, you know, who I mean, honestly, who thought we would ever get that?
Right? Yeah, not me. And I do. Let's see.
What are you looking for?
So, final word on Thrawn here. Yeah, Thrawn's scary. Like Vader, he's a hammer. Like Thrawn's a scalpel, and you never know what direction he's going.
Mm-hmm.
it's a very, very scary thing there.
Yeah. Yeah, Ezra's
I want to know who Ahsoka's master is.
yeah, that's going to be an interesting conversation as well,
Mhm.
because he's going to try to use it against her.
Oh,
Well, he's going to try to
100%.
use it against her, as we've already seen her coming to terms with
Mhm.
it. So
Well, I mean, but he was always one to want to know about his enemies, right? Like,
yeah, well, that's how you defeat your enemy.
like
You know
he
them. I mean,
whenever.
that's right out of Sun Tzu.
Mhm. Yeah,
Is knowing. I mean, he is the embodiment of Sun Tzu in Star Wars. Like,
yeah,
know your enemy,
hmm yeah,
everything about your enemy.
everything. And that's why he's like, I want to know everything about her. I want to know, where she studied, who her friends are, who her master was. He wants to know all the things.
Yeah. So Davin says, I love Sabine inside and out. It's his favorite Rebels character. The fight sequence was incredible, and I love that it's not polished.
Hmm
It's raw fighting. It's what we're used to seeing from Din Djarin and other Mandos, and
hmm
but I love that we're beginning to incorporate, whatever she ends up being. I love where they're going with the character. This was also the episode where I think she finally felt fully like Sabine from Rebels,
Yeah, yeah, for
because we
sure.
hadn't gotten. I mean, honestly, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is the Sabine show. It's not the Ahsoka show." I mean, we got some Sabine, but like this is by far the most Sabine we've gotten, and she felt like Sabine from the animated show, especially the interactions with the Howler.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. She's just like,
yeah. I mean, that could have been a scene right out of Rebels.
yeah, for sure. But I think that
Spencer has joined us. Welcome.
how's it going? Um, I really think that in the same way that we finally in the last episode, we finally see Ahsoka sort of reconnecting with who she was when she was younger. We see she's a little more lighthearted. She's like, I don't know, we're going. Do you know where we're going? No.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's like that's very much how she was when she was young. But
Yeah.
she's not been that person for a long time. And I think we're seeing Sabine maybe
I
a
just
little bit more of who she is,
yeah.
or
I
who she
just
always has been.
I just hope the Howler's going back with us.
Yeah. I think that
Um.
would be fun. A fun pet for her to take back.
So there's the interaction with the Howler is great. Let's talk about the big scene at the end. I mean, I love that we're kind of having episodes like last week. We had all sorts of like mystical, fantastical stuff to dive into, religion,
Mhm.
philosophy. This week we kind of get to jump more into personal story, personal
Yep.
relationships. Um, let's talk about the interaction. I know that my middle child, my 11-year-old daughter, wants a Howler real bad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. She's like, look how cute it is. I was like, that is not the word you're looking for. But sure. Yeah. Just like the
um,
whole time she's like, oh, look at it walk.
I love that the way if those characters, whatever the turtle, if they're the Noti or whatever they are, like I love that it just keeps watching them and licking its lips, like.
Right.
And they were like, because the kids kept laughing because it was like, I mean, that's basically our dog.
Yeah.
And yeah, the kids were getting a big kick out of that.
hmm
Nicole wants a bantha.
Oh,
You're gonna need a big yard.
I think a bantha would stink.
I mean, you can bathe it.
I mean,
You're gonna need a fire
it's
hose, but you
like,
could.
like bathing an elephant. Yeah. How long till Howler plushies are on sale?
I mean, hopefully soon. Like that's a huge. Like I feel like Lucas was a marketing genius, and more than anything else, George Lucas was a marketing genius,
hmm
and even in the way he marketed the movie to the studio,
hmm
he basically conned the studio out of the merchandising rights by presenting it in a certain way. He's
Yeah,
a
with no music.
with no music.
He was like, "Hey, you want to see my great movie that sucks?"
Because it's weird without the music.
Yeah,
The
really
music is the soul of Star Wars.
absolutely.
Which
Speaking of,
yeah, the music's just phenomenal.
oh man, Kevin Kiner really brought his A game on this. On this, I keep saying that. Like every episode, it's like
And
wow.
Spencer wants a rock turtle plush.
Yeah, the rock
Yeah.
turtles are pretty. Like those are the most. And their language, it was like that's the most Star Warsy sounding language.
Yeah. No, they did a
It was very. They were very.
it was a
Ewokian.
huge, I think both the, even though I think they were mostly digital, the howler and the noti or whatever we're calling them, man, such a, I don't know if it's intentionally a nod to the things that Jim Henson and company did for Star Wars or not, but man, it just, it throws me right back to all those fantastic creatures from the
Yeah,
originals.
and the language and the all the stuff. It was great.
Yeah, Kevin Connor absolutely should be making, he should be scoring most Star Wars projects. I think there's other room. I love the Mandalorian themes. I love the Boba Fett themes. Actually, some of the Boba Fett music may be some of the best stuff about that show. But when we're leaning into
Bear
stuff that,
McCreary is not coming back from Mandalorian, though, is he?
no, somebody else did
He's
season
busy doing
3.
Star Wars. I mean, Lord of the Rings. I guess
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what he's working on now.
killing Lord of the Rings. I might add.
Yeah, no, his Rings of Power score is
Phenomenal.
masterful. Yeah. But Kevin Connor is fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, of course, that's been a running theme through every episode of this, is that Kevin Connor is just very, very good. And honestly, like I feel like he should be taking the reign of the music for all the mainline Star Wars stuff,
Mhm.
if for no other reason than he seems to understand George Lucas's themes better than anybody else I've seen try to do it.
John Williams' themes.
What did I say?
George Lucas.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John Williams themes. He
Yeah.
really understands the
Mhm.
themes that John Williams wrote, and he's not heavy-handed with them, but
Yeah.
he knows just when to bring them in.
Yeah.
And of course, we got some of his original music from the animated show in here because we brought back the Thrawn theme and some of that. And
Well,
I
mean,
think
you
when
know
we're
you're gonna have
done,
lots of
that
Rebel
you may
themes.
have to round up some other music people and just do a breakdown of the
Oh, yeah.
soundtrack. I'm not the person for that. I love music, but I don't understand it. I only understand what I like, but I don't understand why it works the way it works.
Yeah.
But so let's talk. I think the last really big thing we need to talk about is um, Ezra and Sabine.
Yeah.
First of all, Ezra looks fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I think they did a really good job. Somebody pointed out that the photo from Rebels of him with his parents, how much the actor looks like his dad, because this is the grown up version of the character,
Yep.
and he looks like his dad. Like he's got the beard that
Yeah.
his dad has in that
Yeah.
photo. So I thought that was a really, really nice touch. And I don't believe things like when Filoni does things like that. I don't believe those things are accidental.
Right.
It's why I kind of have a hard time buying that the name Enoch is totally just a name, that it doesn't mean something. I don't think it means anything super deep is going on with that character other than that he is the most loyal
Mhm.
to Thrawn. Like he got this position, but we don't know what he did, but that he is the most fanatical of the fanatics.
Yeah. I think so. I think that.
I don't think it has to mean anything more than that.
Uh-huh.
But I do think that we got that name to tip us off to what this character is all about.
Yeah.
Also, maybe he was somebody that was saved by Thrawn from death. Like maybe he's, this idea that he didn't die because he was saved by Thrawn. Like this guy could be anybody.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
The Ezra casting seems to be so phenomenal. Yeah, I'm all over it. I love it. So what do you think about the conversation though? Because we don't do a lot of the things, she's talking about how he's always had bad ideas, which he did.
Always.
They always worked out. They most of the time worked out, but they were generally bad ideas.
Yeah.
And so now she's kind of gone with the bad idea. And she doesn't tell him that, oh, by the way, because of me, Thrawn's going to be able, because, he's like, did it work? Like what
Yeah.
I tried to do did work, right? And it's like, yeah, but now it's like, I've undone it.
Right.
Like, now he's going back. So there's that, but we also don't learn anything about what he's been up to for the last 10 to 11 years.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on.
Well, we know, I mean, Ezra, I think that Ezra's flirting with the dark side. I think we were past it by the end of Rebels. I really don't think we've brought Ezra back 11 years, 10, 11 years later to make him a bad guy.
No, I don't think, especially I think that we would have gotten more of that vibe off of him.
Yeah.
And I do think that Megan said the same thing. He's going to be so pissed.
Yeah, so he might, but Ahsoka was mad about it. Ahsoka's like, she did this terrible thing, but I actually like what Hu Yang's like, you're being guided by the Force and you're making a decision based on this, but this might have been the right decision for her.
Yeah.
You're looking at it through a lens of it was a good decision or a bad decision, but maybe it was just the only one she had.
Yeah.
Because I think Hu Yang's more willing than everybody else in this show at this point to acknowledge that the Force guides things.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one thing that's real easy, because we go, well, this person's doing this person's doing this. Why would they do this? And we leave out the fact that the cosmic force has a will of its own and that it is guiding the events.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. So Isaac says Ezra's going to run off with Shin and start a new Jedi Order in a galaxy far, far away. Maybe some of these people get left on this planet.
And that would be interesting.
We don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think Ezra's going to get left on this planet, but Ezra could end up coming back here eventually. Honestly, I don't know. I kind of, obviously this story is going to be different. They're not going to do Mara Jade. Luke's not going to have a wife. Actually, at this point, I'd be angry if they gave Luke a wife, because then he's just going to be the dirtbag that runs off to hide on a planet far, far away and abandon a wife as well.
I mean, maybe she dies.
But I think that there's a possibility.
Maybe that's why he runs away. Maybe the wife dies.
Maybe. That's maybe. If Shin doesn't have a face turn here, maybe she ends up basically maybe she ends up the Emperor's hand.
Ooh.
Or, whatever the variation of that is in this story. I mean,
that could be interesting. So this is an interesting question too. Do you think that Ezra has found the thing that Baylan is looking for?
Ezra is very attuned to the Force, especially the living Force. We've established that over and over.
Especially if it has to do with animals.
Ezra is attuned to the living Force, maybe in a way we haven't seen any other Jedi. Yeah. Maybe Qui-Gon. I think that whatever it is, that Ezra is going to be very aware of it. So yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, they're still. I love that we're this far into the show, and I still feel like I have no idea what's coming next week.
Yeah, and I think that you're exactly right. I think
we're past that moment. I think that if Ezra was going to the dark side, I think we've already had Ezra's temptation. I think we passed it.
Yeah.
I think that the death of Darth Maul, the brief moment he has with Kenobi, marks the end of that era.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that draws a line in the sand on which side Ezra's going to come down on. That and the death of Kanan.
Yeah.
I think those things firmly push Ezra to the light.
I feel like it's a little bit, it reminds me, like Kanan dying the way he did. It reminds me a little bit of like Les Mis, whenever the old priest tells Jean Valjean, I have bought your soul for God, right? He's like, I'm like, I think that it messes with the whole flow of their story.
That's not what I meant to click on. There were a lot of very good points in the chat. Thank y'all. But Isaac says, I think Shin is going to betray Balin and fully embrace the dark. That was basically what I predicted at the beginning, that he's going to face turn and she's going to kill him. I'm kind of waffling on that now a little bit, but it's still a very solid possible theory.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I feel like it's a good story because it's not just like, well, clearly this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of actors. I saw someone out there with a couple of casting suggestions. I think it was John Hoey at the Resistance broadcast that was talking. He mentioned Russell Crowe and a couple of other names that really could step into this role. So I don't know if they will. I'm not sure. I think it
I don't think they
depends.
want to pay Russell Crowe kind of money.
I mean, I think they were probably paying. I think they were probably paying Ray a pretty penny, and it's going to be a movie. You know, the return will be a movie. They're going to have more money, and um,
I mean, such a phenomenal character. Like, honestly, I think the most likely thing is that he'll get some kind of send off in this. You know, either he goes down being bad or he goes down being good. I think that's the most likely scenario, and I think Shin or Thrawn or somebody else, you know, kind of picks up that mantle of the confusing.
yeah, Balin has been for me the
character.
standout character in this series. I love a lot of the characters. I guess when I say the standout character, he's a new character that I'm just like immediately willing to just fully embrace into my world here.
Like, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the Balin prequel series.
Yeah, right.
I'd watch it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
How does he
absolutely.
know? Like, how does he know that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader? Like, he's got lots of information for a random mercenary who's
Yeah,
training more than just a Jedi.
yeah.
Like, what does that even mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. There are some people that knew who
Right, it
Vader
wasn't
was.
common knowledge.
It's also possible he knew Anakin. It's also possible that he had a run in with Vader at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, a story. I would even just take a book. Like there are a number of offshoots here. The problem with wishing for a book is also wishing they would bring in the right writers to do it.
I wish.
Hire Michael
Ooh,
Stackpole. Michael
the guy-
Stackpole writing a Balin backstory. I'm all over that.
Who's the guy who wrote Master and Apprentice?
I don't know. It's back there somewhere.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
They used to be in order. They're not. So no, I can't find anything.
Anymore. Well, what's the good of that?
Well, I don't know. It something happened and they're not in order anymore. There's too many of them is why they're not in order anymore.
I blame you.
Um
Either way, that I liked that book. It was a good kind of Jedi prequel book.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's all about bringing in the right writers. And I think they need to go back to bringing in writers that they haven't brought in a while. There are good writers that have written books in the new canon, but have only really gotten one shot at it. Like the guy that wrote Force Collector.
Yeah, that one was great.
You know, bring some of those guys back and let them write a book. Let Timothy Zahn write a new book. Let him follow a new character. Timothy Zahn's a fantastic writer. Michael Stackpole, you would sell so many books if you brought Michael Stackpole back.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, Megan, that would be he would be at the top of the list for me.
That's actually was my initial thought, was that
there is no better writer writing Star Wars right now than
Claudia Gray wrote Master and Apprentice.
Yeah, but Claudia Gray, really, her last few books have not been good.
Yeah.
Like she started off strong. Yes, James Luceno. Yeah, that'd be a fantastic choice.
Or John Jackson Miller, who wrote the Obi-Wan book. The Obi-Wan book was fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you who needs to come back and write a Star Wars book, but I don't know if they can get him away from the Dune universe. It's
Mm.
Kevin J. Anderson.
Ah,
Kevin J. Anderson wrote some phenomenal Star Wars books. He's one of the, I mean, in the fantasy world, he's one of the biggest names, fantasy and sci-fi,
yeah.
one of the biggest names on the planet right now as far as living writers.
Hmm.
And yeah, and if you could get him, I'm sure he would come back for the right money.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know anything about
Well, he
how
was one of
writers
the
get
one who
paid.
seemed kind of a little put out about not having been asked to write new Star
No, that
Wars.
was, well,
That
he
was Michael
was, but
Stackpole.
that was Michael Stackpole was just plain bitter about it.
Yeah.
Michael Stackpole was so bitter about it, I don't even know if he'd do it if they asked him now.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Michael Stackpole wrote the Rogue Squadron books, the X-wing series. He wrote one of my absolute favorite Star Wars books of all time, I Jedi. Um, Kevin J. Anderson wrote a bunch of the Young Jedi um,
Hmm.
books.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of good options for writers. So see, we can help you with this, Lucasfilm. Get you some writers that people want to read.
Yeah. Well, like I said, and I'll say it. Like I haven't like the last book Claudia Gray wrote that I read in the High Republic. I couldn't even get through the book.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I tried it like 3 times. Aaron Austin was an incredible writer. Yeah. Um, it's in fact I think they give an award at Dragon Con every year named for Aaron Austin, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, the X-wing books.
Yeah, the X-Wing books was Michael Stackpole and Aaron Austin.
Hmm.
Aaron Austin passed, and then Michael Stackpole wrote a bunch of them as well. Those books are, if you can get your hands on those books, they're well worth a read.
Hmm. You know, it's kind of crazy. There are several writers who had a lot of success writing Star Wars Legends books, before the acquisition. And they just, Amanda's saying that she talked to Troy Denning at a con a
Yeah,
couple years ago, and he kept hoping to get a call from Lucasfilm. Like,
yeah. Well,
why
that's
are they
we
not?
heard we were at a, I guess we were in a panel. That a panel was so amazing. I don't even remember who the fourth author was, but three of
E.K.
the
Johnston.
authors was E.K. Johnston. Okay, but the panel was Michael Stackpole, Timothy Zahn, and Kevin J. Anderson on stage together. That was one of the coolest panels I've ever been to. But yeah, Michael Stackpole he was not real amused at having not been asked back.
No.
But I think so. Unless anybody have anything else in the chat, anything we didn't cover, because we kind of got off track here at the end talking about books, which I'm always down to talk about books, but um, we probably need to wrap up before Marisha does turn into a pumpkin for the night.
It's about to be pumpkin o'clock.
But
Marisha has to get up early
is
now.
there anything else, specifically anything else about the Ezra uh Sabine moment? Because we didn't learn, I mean, and I think it's intentional. We didn't learn anything. That was part of leaving us hanging. Um, things are unraveling a little bit for Thrawn. The Night Sisters or the witches are seeing loose threads that they didn't see before.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this. I mean, I think that Sabine and Ezra, have a bit of a squabble, and then they wind up. I think they wind up teaming up with Ahsoka, and they're the that's going to be our finale.
So
I
do
don't know
they
where they
manage?
wind up.
So do they manage to defeat Balin and Shin, or does Ahsoka show up?
I don't think they need Ahsoka to knock out Balin and Shin.
I mean,
Um,
Balin took out Ahsoka partially because Ahsoka was very distracted.
yeah.
But I don't know if either one of them are up to the task of fighting
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
a someone like Balin.
Um,
Because we got to remember, like, not only is he a fully trained Jedi master, he also survived all this time since Order
that's true.
66.
Hmm. Yeah. You know, I mean, I think Ahsoka shows up and all bets are off for Balin and Shin.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Ahsoka showing up now is not a distracted Ahsoka.
No, I think she's more focused than she's been in years.
So yeah. So I think yeah, so Davin says not learning anything, having just the embrace and a small conversation was enough after waiting for 5.5 years. I agree. I didn't need anything this episode.
I just certainly didn't need an exposition dump.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of stuff. It seems like there's a lot of stuff to pack into 2 episodes. So I'm real curious to see what the episode length is on these final 2. I think they've got to be a little longer.
Yeah, I think they've got to be.
Although we're going to leave a little open-ended because we're not wrapping up the Thrawn story here. I think this we just have to get back to figure out how we're getting back to the Prime Galaxy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up for tonight. So thank you to everybody that hung out in the chat with us tonight. You always make this a lot of fun. We will be back. I'll be back next Tuesday evening. Depends on how long the episode is, but we're kind of shooting for 9:15 Central Time, which has been giving us about 30 minutes after the show we're done watching. We don't want to do it too quick because we want everybody to get through and be able to join us in the chat. But we will be back next Tuesday night and then next Wednesday night for our full review.
Yeah.
So again, thank you to everybody that hung out in the chat. You can find us at sci_fictionary on Twitter or at crew_podcast. That's CRU_podcast. Drop us a line at the sciencefictionary@gmail.com. And as always, check out all of the Red 5 Network podcasts at bio.link/Red5. Thanks again, guys. And until next time, may the force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.